Let's make a whole food, plant-based haluski. No butter needed. Haluski is a traditional dish made with potatoes, cabbage, and noodles. And, well, gotta start with potatoes. So we have some cleaned potatoes here, and I'm just gonna cube them up. We want roughly 1/2-inch cubes or so. Something like that. How much potato do we actually have, Derek?
1.5 pounds.
That's important because this pretty much served the two of us when we tested this recipe. I tend to eat a lot, so it may serve 3 people if you're not a heavy eater. For those of you following a starch solution diet, this is a wonderful idea because it's starches with a little bit of veg, meaning you're not going to be getting a lot of extra anything in this that you don't want, but there is a lot of starch, there's a lot of flavor, and almost no fat. Very, very low in fat.
Ideally, you want these to be bite-sized pieces of potato, so that way you can have a little bit of piece of potato in each bite.
Once our potatoes are all cut up, I'm going to put them into a pot. I'm going to add enough water to cover, plus just a little bit. Then we're going to set it to a boil. Once it comes to a boil, about 8 minutes or so, and they will be fork tender. This is also a cabbage dish, so we need a head of cabbage. This is a relatively small one, probably only about 5 inches in size, and I'm going to start by cutting it right down the middle. Yep, that's the official way to do it, just like that. When you open it up, you're going to see all the leaves, and you're also going to see the stem. Take your knife, cut straight through, and out comes the stem.
Otherwise known as the core.
Yes. Becomes pretty inedible, though, so I don't really like to cook with it. All right, we've removed some of the outer leaves already. If they look kind of ratty or whatever, and you don't really want to eat them, remove those. But to prep it, I'm just going to make some slices across, roughly 1 inch to 1.5 inches or so. And then on this end, just like that, turn it 90 degrees and do roughly the same idea. I'm making like 1-inch pieces or so. And at the end, so you got all these ones that are all oddly shaped, just like that, done. If you miss a little bit of the core and stuff, just, trim it up. It's okay. And same idea. Slice, slice, down the side, turn, and chop. If you want to, once you get here, you can actually lay it on its side and do it again, just like that. Come through. If you get too much core, see like this piece here, that's way too much core. That either is a chef snack or you can just chop it up into smaller pieces. See? Another example. Okay, the rest of this looks pretty good. Let's start cooking it up. Before we cook up that cabbage, we want to add a little bit of extra flavor to it. So we need
1/2 onion.
This is just a regular yellow onion, nothing fancy. And what I'm going to do is see how these are roughly like 1-inch largish pieces. I'm going to cut the onion in half this way and then just cut off slices. So I'm basically making almost similarly shaped onion pieces, but a little bit smaller than the cabbage.
We have made this recipe before with omitting the onion, so if you do not like onion, feel free to leave it out.
Yeah. I just thought, onion's a nice addition, so that's why we're doing it today. Now we're going to get our pan heated up and start cooking. All right, so once our potatoes are fork tender, as you can see here, I'm going to start straining them off and then put them into a glass bowl that's now steaming up my camera, and then set them off to the side. Okay, so I have my pan up to about 350 to 375 degrees. I'm going to start adding in our cabbage. Break up any big pieces. If they need to get chopped a little bit more, that's okay too, but use your hands usually. And the onions go right in along with it. It's going to look like a lot, but this cooks down, trust me. And start moving that around almost immediately. You don't want anything to burn to the bottom of that pan. It'll start to exude a little bit of liquid, but we're going to give it some help. I want to add a little bit of salt to help the cabbage break down a little bit and exude some liquid. Just keep moving it around a little bit. You're not really looking for color. You kind of just want it to cook down a little bit. So it takes a few minutes, but, it's worth it. While the cabbage is cooking down, though, we still have that water from our potatoes on the stove. I just strained them off and make sure that you keep the water. It's kind of important. And we have these pappardelle nests. It's just like a wide noodle These do not have egg in the pasta though. Most pappardelle does, so be careful when you find them. How much do we actually have of this?
4 ounces.
And I'm going to put that right into the same water that the potatoes cooked in and just cook them until they're soft. I believe it takes about 6 to 8 minutes. If you start seeing color like that, you want to add a little bit of water. That'll cool the pan down and help to steam, therefore it won't burn. So as you can see, it's pretty steamy. There's water in the bottom of the pan. I keep adding just a little bit of water at a time to keep it more or less moist so that we can cook through all that cabbage. The trick to cooking cabbage though is, see how it's still nice and green and white? If it starts to turn gray, that means you just boiled your cabbage. That doesn't really taste anywhere near as good as cooking it this way, just taking a little bit of time as you do it. Okay, our pasta is done and I strained it out, and we had some liquid left. That liquid is important. This is going to become our gravy. That is potato starch and pasta starch in the water. Double win. Okay, so our cabbage is pretty much cooked down to where we want it. Taste a piece or two. Try it out. See if it's at the crunch level that you like. It should not be mushy. It should still have some texture to it. Now I want to add in our potatoes. And I'm going to add in the noodles. But see, here's the thing. Those noodles are all kind of whole. I don't mind breaking them up a little because normally this was done with like egg noodles, you know, the little smaller ones. So breaking them up a little is okay. If you wanted to cut them or something, you could totally do that too. I'm just not going to worry about it. And now we're going to start adding in some of our seasonings and get this gravy going. And yes, this is a very full pan. It's going to be difficult to work with. Okay, to start with, we have
1/4 cup nutritional yeast.
Yes, that is 4 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. You're going to use a lot for this dish. Notice I'm holding some back though. Do want to try to mix it through a little bit as I'm going now. I have the heat down to low, by the way. You do not want to burn anything that we're adding.
1 teaspoon marjoram.
If you don't have marjoram, you can use oregano. And then
1 teaspoon caraway seeds.
now, not everybody puts this in their haluski. I actually really like caraway seeds.
Personally, I think if you leave it out, you're missing out.
And then
Salt to taste.
we did salt the cabbage, so I'm just going to put a little bit of salt. That's maybe half a teaspoon. And fresh cracked black pepper. I like this dish rather peppery. I know I say that a lot, but usually it's because of Derica. This time it's because of me. And now what's going to happen is I need to mix all this through, but we also need to simulate the butter. I've been saying gravy, but it's really what used to be butter. In the before times, I would have just used a vegan butter, but now that we're trying to be more conscious of fat, I'm actually going to use some of that starch liquid. When you mix that with the nutritional yeast that's already in there, a magical thing starts to happen. It forms like a little bit of a gravy and makes it beautiful.
We were working really hard to try to figure out how could we replicate the unctuousness, the textural feel that butter and other fats such as oil give a dish. And it is just shocking how well the starch water replicates that sensation. You will swear that this has butter in it.
Yeah, the velvety sensation that butter gives is what's coming through. I'm pretty sure I used a different pan when I made this last time. I must have, because there's no way I had this much trouble.
I'm in the splash zone.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. We'll make this work, you know? If some of your potatoes break up, it's okay. Just try to be careful. I'm trying to cut some of the pasta so that it's not like huge, long pieces, but it's not crucial. What I'm looking for, see that liquid in the bottom there? That's what I don't want to see. I want to cook that away. I want it to get soaked up or cooked in. And I know you're looking at this going, that is a lot of food. Well, gotta realize it's probably 50% cabbage, which I could eat a whole head of cabbage myself. So I don't really think it's that much. All right, I am going to add the rest of the nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast actually works as a thickener in this case. So it's helping to take that water, the starch water, and thicken it up a little bit more. And it does add some umami flavors, a little bit of almost a cheesy flavor, which works really well to replace the butter flavor. So it's just, we're tricking the brain into thinking it's something that it's not, which isn't that kind of what all food is, essentially? The trick is, though, you wanted to make sure those potatoes were cooked before you added them. Make sure the pasta is cooked before you added them. Otherwise, this will take all day, and you will turn that cabbage to mush trying to cook those potatoes through it. Now, rather than add more seasoning in the pan, I would rather start plating this, and we can always add salt at the table. That way, you end up using less salt when you cook that way. All right, I think we are good to go. I'm going to take this off the heat, let it sit for about 5 minutes. Trust me, it'll stay hot. And we're going to take some pictures and reset the studio so that we can show you how this tastes. And now for the best part of any cooking video, the tasting. Now, I grew up eating this stuff, and it was kind of a new thing for Derica, right?
It was. The only time I ever had cabbage that I liked was at like an Irish pub or something like that. But
This is not that. My dad's side of the family is all Lithuanian, so this was a very popular thing for us growing up. And what I love about doing it the way we did it is the cabbage maintains a little bit of texture. It keeps some of its color. The potatoes still have a little bit of texture to them. The noodle just adds, you know, this lovely softness to the bite. The textures are what really make this dish. There's a little bit of flavors from the caraway seeds and, you know, all the creaminess that would be butter normally really just works.
It's crazy. You would swear that there was butter on this.
Or
But
oil.
there's not. You saw what we did. The hardest part was just waiting for the cabbage to cook down, honestly.
Yeah, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes for the cabbage. And yeah, I just keep eating it because this is just really, really good. I can't express how much this tastes like it has butter or oil in it.
Yeah.
It really does.
It's
This
nuts.
is extraordinarily low fat, though. Now, I don't know that you really want to store it, okay? The cabbage is going to get weird when you try to microwave it or reheat it. I suppose you could probably throw it in a pan and try to
The
bring it
pasta
back
will
up.
also break down.
Yeah, so this is kind of a make it, eat it, enjoy it. And as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time on The Bistro.